Call of the Sea is a story-driven 3D puzzle adventure game where you play as Nora, who is searching for answers regarding her beloved husband's disappearance on a mysterious Pacific island and the truth behind her mysterious illness. The gameplay mostly involves walking around environments and interacting with various elements and notes to solve this mystery. The last game of which I played in this genre being Firewatch, so I will do some comparing between the two. Also, as much as I am tempted otherwise, I will keep this review completely spoiler-free. So let's take a look at Call of the Sea, released at the end of 2020 by Out of the Blue.
This can't be a coincidence.
Call of the Sea takes place over 6 chapters, unfolding the story as you get deeper and deeper into the island. Each chapter introduces several puzzles along the way, most of which are solved by interacting with notes, symbols, and other environmental clues, the majority of which are clever but not head-scratchers per se, although I will admit I got stuck on Chapter 3 after missing the smallest of clues, but more on that later. In terms of gameplay, each chapter contains an interactive 3D environment that is somewhat open, but also linear in the sense there is only usually one thing you are working on at a time, like opening a door, unfolding a bridge, or something else in the vein of advancing to the next section.
Guess I hit the jackpot. That's my ticket across the river then.
Firewatch had a similar approach to that experience, unfolding over chapters acting as days. In terms of the main storylines, Call of the Sea ends up taking a lot more liberties, by starting as an early 1900s era exploration game and turning slowly into a game rooted with fantastical elements. Firewatch is rooted in realism and the appearance of making you think something is happening, where Call of the Sea is clearly surrounded by more and more mysticisms as the story gets deeper. The sharp differences being that the story in Call of the Sea is completely told through Nora's eyes and her memories, for the most part telling a precise and clear story, where Firewatch's story is heavily influenced by the interaction of its two main characters over a radio system, full of dialogue choices which can steer your mind in a number of different directions.
Yeah, I'm not sure I got a lot of choice in getting struck down.
Especially not with your electric personality.
Ugh.
I see my joke did not spark your sense of humor.
Also, as it turns out, the main voice actress in both Firewatch and this game are the same person, Sissy Jones, who does a ton of video game voice acting work, and has probably appeared in something you've played before, whether you realize it or not. So maybe that's also why I instantly got Firewatch vibes? Regardless, the voice acting is fantastic in both, and maybe even the best element of either game.
Take their shit.
Alright, fine.
Don't feed anyone a knuckle sandwich. Get going. You'll probably need a rope to get down the shale between you and the...
In terms of Call of the Sea, it definitely helps to offset the fact that almost every line of dialogue in the game is Nora talking, or at least thinking to herself. Even with the great voice acting, the middle of the game gets very repetitive, and even when it's pretty clear the direction the game is heading in, it seems to take Nora way longer than it should to figure it out, and her dialogue reflects this a bit. This may have been influenced by the puzzle in Chapter 3 that I got stuck on a little longer than I should, but I still bought in completely in the end, and the ending itself is quite the delight to make up for it.
I've been here my entire life. I'm trapped in here.
In terms of the story, I really don't have anything all that bad to say, but some elements of Call of the Sea that fall a bit short for me involve the gameplay itself. This is tough to comment on without giving away spoilers, but essentially the game allows you to interact with certain objects littered throughout. These objects will either have superficial information or contain direct clues to solving the puzzle you are currently working on. So if you ever get stuck, just check your journal and make sure you interact with everything you see, because Nora will write down the important stuff. The game does add layers and elements to this formula briefly towards the end, but these go mostly unrealized, and until then, it can feel a bit repetitive. I think this hampers the pacing somewhat, which combined with the occasional puzzle that you can get stuck on, can kind of take you out of the experience, making the game trip over itself at times. On the other hand, in a game like Firewatch, the pacing is more coherent throughout, with nothing in the way to detract you from watching the story unfold.
Wow, this technology never ceases to amaze.
In the end, I really like Call of the Sea. There is nothing majorly wrong with the game, and clearly a good amount of effort went into making it, but it ended up feeling somewhat derivative to me and maybe not as interesting as it should have been given the premise. It still grips you enough where if you can get through the slower middle third of the game, you will want to see the journey to the end, held up more by the voice acting versus the writing or gameplay elements. It ends up telling a clear love story between two characters, which is something that is gripping but also a bit formulaic, where Firewatch ends up being a more unique experience, sticking with you a bit longer after completion versus Call of the Sea. Basically, Firewatch is a game that you should go into completely blind, and it can grip almost anyone, where Call of the Sea is good but not quite great game for anyone seeking a self-contained narrative and puzzle-based gaming experience.
May some angel sentry guard you while I stray, and fate be kind to join us some sweet day.